Thank you all for coming. Things like this don't happen without the support of our sponsors. So I'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, the District Burlington, Oracle, Weaver and Bronstein, and Leahy Hospital and Medical Center. Thank you all. And a special thanks to Tuscan Kitchen, who always opens their arms for us when we come here, and we appreciate all the things that Joe Farrer and his team do for us. I'd like to note a couple of people that are with us tonight. First, State Representative Ken Gordon. Ken, where are you? He's in the back hiding. Judy Burke, the Dean of Corporate and Community Education and Training at Middlesex Community College. Judy, where are you hiding? Oh, all the cool kids are down the back tonight. Stephanie Cronin, Executive Director of Middlesex 3 Coalition. Marge McDonald. Marge, did you make it in here? Marge McDonald's not here yet, but she's the Executive Director of the Burlington Council on Aging. And I'd like to say special thanks to two of the most important people in the room. You know Katie O'Connor, our Marketing Coordinator. And our newest addition to the BACC team is our Office Manager, Carrie Preston. So we'll all be on our best behavior tonight, so Carrie won't leave tomorrow. One other thing, I want to make a quick note. I'd like to congratulate Dave Adams, being awarded the Small Business Association Veteran-Owned Small Business of the Year from Massachusetts. Dave Adams. Congratulations, Dave. People always ask, what does a Chamber of Commerce do? It's a lot easier to tell what we don't do these days. The Chamber's not affiliated with any local government or agency. 100% of our fundings comes from our members through their membership dues and through the generous support of our sponsors at items like this and at events. We owe everything that we have to all of the people in this room, and it truly is a team effort. We can't do it without you, and this business association is one of the most successful because of the team we have here. So I want to say, please give you all of yourselves a hand. We couldn't do it without you. So I'm going to give a quick recap. I know that one of the wise men in this room said, this is not your grandfather's Chamber of Commerce. So if you're new to the room, and I know there are some new faces here, forget everything you know about a Chamber of Commerce. This business organization is about results. It's about connecting people with each other. It's about finding what the common challenges are and taking them head on, and finding partners and programs that we can really make a difference. So over the past year, 2018, we've seen a 21% increase in membership, and a third of our members are outside of Burlington now. So we're seeing diversification throughout the area. Our top business categories, representing about 50% of the chamber right now, and this is in order: business and professional services, finance and insurance, restaurants, food and beverage, commercial and residential real estate, and healthcare. Small businesses represent the lion's share of this organization, but it's truly that partnership between the larger and the smaller organizations that make this organization as healthy and effective as it is. It's combining the resources of the small businesses and the larger organizations. Last year, we did 190 events. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I know it's about 4 a week. And we cannot do it without all of the combined efforts of our events committee. And anyone who's on the events committee, please hold up your hands. Thank you all. The good news is we're looking to go over 200 next year, but hey, enjoy your dinner here tonight. We also have one of the greatest member education programs and software management programs that are available for business organizations. I'm proud to say that 130 members took advantage of that training over the last year, and we're seeing more traffic to our website now than we've seen in the previous 3 years. The partnerships that we have go far outside the Burlington area. We've got a lot of educational institutions that we work with. Northeastern University's Innovation Campus here in Burlington is working on technology for the coming generation. We're working on partnering with spin-offs coming out of that organization, finding a home for them and making sure that we keep the area diversified. We work with Middlesex Community College on workforce training and education, including compliance training for businesses. If there's something that your business needs, we can sit down and talk with Judy Burke, and they will create a program. We're trying to make sure that you're getting the workforce you need and also access to the education that you might desire. Shawsheen Tech, we're working with them on a culinary and hospitality program to address the severe shortage that we have of hospitality and restaurant workers, and we've been working on that for quite a few years now, and we've got some exciting news to announce coming up shortly, but I promised that I wouldn't jinx any of it. We also work with the high school on their career exploration day, their job shadowing, and their internship programs. This is really part of what it means to be a business in this area, to be connected with the community, to be serious about finding that next generation of workers and getting them interested in what we're doing. We started the Career Exploration Day 5 years ago. We had 7 of us that were at that first event. This year we had 75 businesses participate in it, and I know a lot of people in the room, so I thank you for that. We also partner with the Mass Hire Career Centers. The Burlington Police Department, we partnered with them and continue to partner with them on workforce violence training. It's something that's happening out there and everyone thinks it won't happen to them. We're doing that educational resource at Grandview, but they also will go into your business and look and give you tips on what it would take to protect yourself from workforce violence and the things that are happening out in the real world today. We also partner with the Burlington Fire Department and Leahy on the Stop the Bleed program. The first responders that we typically think of are the police and fire people, but it's not that. It's you. It's your employees. It's the person in the next cubicle. Getting to know what to do in the event of an emergency that happens in your facility is very important. So we're continuing to work with Leahy and the Burlington Fire Department on that. I think I've got to my allotted time, so I really want to introduce the superstar of the Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce. That is Sonia Rollins.
Superstar, that was good. Good evening, everybody. Sonia Rollins. I am with Exit Premier Real Estate. I serve as co-chair along with my colleague and friend, most importantly, Bob Buckley, Reamer, and Bronstein. Bob and I serve as co-chairs, and on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and on behalf of the Board of Directors, we'd like to welcome you to the annual meeting. So I always get the fun job of doing the quote-unquote business portion of the annual meeting, so bear with me on that. But before I do that, Rick is so great about thanking his staff, and they are absolutely worthy of every word he said. But a round of applause for our president, Rick Parker, who kills it every day. 190 events, multiple phone calls from crazy people like me, multiple phone calls from members like you. Rick works 24/7, and it is really hard to find somebody who is as dedicated as he is to this chamber and this community. So Rick, thank you from the bottom of our hearts, really. No, that's true. He gave me 10 minutes, but I'm the chairman. I might take 12. I'm only kidding. I'm really going to take 10. So I want to start with what the annual meeting is. Really, our bylaws say that our annual meeting, we present to you, the Board of Directors, the slate that's before you. And just as an FYI to everybody, once the Board of Directors are confirmed in this room, the Board of Directors then meet and then reconfirm an executive committee. So you'll hear an announcement on an executive committee, but only after the annual meeting meets the Board of Directors. Sometimes we get lucky and sometimes we don't. And sometimes our dates coincide. Unfortunately, some of our board could not be here today, but in respect to them and the work they do, we're going to go ahead and name everybody. If you are one of my board members and I say your name, please stand. And at the end, the membership can meet you that way. Dave Adams, President, AFC, Urgent Care, Burlington. Jorge Andrades, Business Banking Relationship Manager with Citizens Bank. I don't believe Jorge's here today. His wife is giving birth, which is,
good excuse.
you know what? That's worthy, right, okay. Armin Bassi, Senior Vice President, Wealth Management, Merrill Lynch Private Banking. Our treasurer, and has been doing it for years, and God bless him, Carl Blanchard, Alder and Blanchard and Associates. Carl also sits on our executive committee. You met him. I'm going to ask him to stand. Senior partner, Reamer and Bronstein, Bob Buckley, my co-chair. Maybe one of the most benevolent people I know. Dr. Eric Conti, Superintendent of Schools, Burlington Public Schools. Eric couldn't be with us today, but on our board. The Middlesex 3 Coalition's Executive Director, Stephanie Cronin. Senior Director of Building Services for Oracle, Diane Courier, who could not join us, unfortunately. Director of Business Development for Commodore Builders, Sean Curtin. This is a little bit of a list of the unfortunates, but let's go with it because they're great to us. Senior Vice President, National Development, who is part of the district, of course, Andrew Gallinaro. Ray Graber, President and Founder of Graber Associates. Ray is here. Senior Sales Executive for Paychex, Lisa Healy. The Cafe Escadrille representative and Murray Hills, Michael Murray, who is not here today. Our Licensed Insurance Advisor and extraordinaire, and also one of the co-chairs of the Government Affairs Committee, Foster Sullivan Insurance Group, Kelly Pappas. CEO of Long's Jewelers, he is prepping hard for his holiday season, Bob Rottenberg. Our Community Relations Regional Manager for Leahy Hospital Medical Center, Michelle Schneider. Michelle is here. Owner and operator of Fitness Together Burlington and Melrose, Brendan Stapleton, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. Brendan does a great job with our golf. And our vice chair, who is also busy with Family Tonight, Vice President of Development for the Gutierrez Company, Scott Weiss. Ladies and gentlemen, your board of directors. Thank you all for your service to that. Now, on the technicality, I need a motion to approve. Isn't this an interesting motion? Could I get a motion from anybody on the floor for the board of directors? Thank you, Beverly. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? I always say at the end of this vote, what would we do if someone said no? Really? Well, we'd all have to go home. Like, eat your steak, go home. That's what would happen. All right, so in any event, thank you very much to our board of directors who work hard. As I said, as a point of technicality, for those who are interested in the membership, the board of directors will now meet now that the annual meeting as per the bylaws have happened. All right, an executive committee will be named or renamed, and we will announce that that will happen in December. So I'm going to move on. How am I doing on time, Rick? Awesome. Okay. So I want to talk to you about a few different things. I've had the pleasure of working on the board of directors for some time now, but really what it's all about is, Rick said it best, the association is really your association. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to say it again, the BACC is a nonprofit organization. We have 2 divisions. We have the Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce and we have our charitable foundation. We believe heavily in what we do. We serve Burlington and its surrounding communities. I think Rick talked about that as well. The area is really much larger than Burlington as a town. It's really about the whole area. And we have people on the board who service a lot of the different areas, and our members, quite frankly, do that. The board of directors can't do it alone. This is a volunteer organization. Shy of the 3 people, literally 3 people that go to the chamber's office every day. Everything else that happens is a volunteer base, and we couldn't do it without you. We also couldn't do it with our ambassadors, and I cheated and wrote this sentence down off the website because I think it's great. The chamber ambassadors are members who are selected for their ability to inform, promote, and encourage meaningful participation in the chamber programs. They are the members who go just that one step further and help us, and they get recognized for that. We're fortunate to have 2 of those ambassadors in the room today. Brenda Cahoon of Exit Premier Real Estate. Brenda, say hello. And I believe I have Rena Scott from North Shore Bank somewhere in the room. Rena. We're really fortunate to have the ambassadors. We're grateful for them. We are also grateful for the committee members and the event committee members who, Rick, had you raise your hands. We actually really couldn't do it without you, and we're thankful for that. Speaking of committees, 190 of them, 190 events, 7 different committees. I urge you all to think about that as you kind of walk away from an annual meeting and think about something you can do. What's really important is to think about what intrigues you in a chamber and what would you like to do, because there are charitable portions of it, there are government affairs portions of it. There are event portions of it, and I would ask you all to look at the website and think about what you want to do. We are fortunate to have so many great committees. The events committee, a golf committee where Brendan Stapleton chairs, but a whole committee works with him to get a golf tournament going. A government affairs committee. There's a restaurant group because we can't argue that Burlington has some of the best restaurants around, and if you look at the meals tax we're taking in, we can tell you that people like to eat here, so that's great. The restaurant group, the women in business, and I know every time I say women in business, my co-chair says, how come only women can go? Well, you can come. We might talk about it when you leave, but you can come if you'd like. So the women in business meet the second Tuesday of every month. There's discussions on a whole lot of things, but we would never turn you away if a man wants to come in the room. Nonetheless, Women in Business has done great strides, and we have a great committee that meets, and the second Tuesday of every month someone hosts us. Sometimes you're bringing a lunch, sometimes they're serving you lunch, but really what's happening is that connection where people can talk about something that intrigues them and something worth networking. The events committee doing over 190 events, but really some of those are the after hours, which are happening from 5 to 7 on Thursday nights once a month. Some of them are the network AM, which are happening at 7:30 in the morning for the people who want to do some serious networking and then get on to their day job, right? So 7:30 to 9 in the morning, once a month. Please join us for those. Those are coming day in, day out. And then we have what we believe are our signature events. Our signature events, now I gotta cheat, Rick, so I don't forget. Our signature events are on your table, right? But our signature events, the Black Tie Gala is coming up. This will be the 3rd annual. If you haven't gone to it, please plan on it. January 26th at the Cafe Escadrille. It benefits 10 nonprofits who are nonprofit members for us, and they are doing yeoman's work outside, serving the public, serving Burlington, serving beyond Burlington. It is a beautiful event, $100 a ticket. It all goes to charity, which we love and we're very proud of. And for those of you who are going to ask the question, it's the bye week. It's the week between the playoffs and the Super Bowl. You're not going to miss a thing. No excuses. The spring soiree comes up in March. The scholarship luncheon, which is donated by Londana's every year and helps us raise money for the scholarships. The golf tournament happens in May every year. The Taste, formerly known as the Taste of Burlington, but again, the restaurants are doing their thing, so the Taste comes every fall. This year was in October, but it will always hover in that time frame. And then, of course, the annual meeting that we're at tonight. So those are our signature items that we're pretty proud of. Everything from 100 people in a room to 500 people at the Taste. Please join us for those. Please look for the websites. Please think about the sponsorship opportunities. I can't lie to you. The black tie is coming fast and furious. If you don't call me, I'm going to be calling you. So if there are sponsorship opportunities available, please feel free to join us on that. Speaking of the nonprofits, I do want to tell you that I am proud to say that the Scholarship Foundation, our scholarship luncheon, and really the absolute graciousness of Bob, Mark Vaughn is in the room from Reamer and Bronstein as well, their absolute undying dedication to the scholarship luncheon that happens, named after Harold DeLong, who was a former partner who passed away at Reamer and Bronstein 11 years ago. 12 more? Holy moly, 15 years ago, and was a dedicated person to the Burlington community. The scholarship luncheon was named after him. Reamer and Bronstein has embraced that. You have all embraced that by coming to this luncheon. I'm proud to tell you that over the course of the last 8 years, the Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce has given back in excess of $100,000 to students who are furthering their education in Burlington. I'll close in telling you that I'm also equally as proud as the charitable partnership that has come into play. In the last 2 years, we've done 2 galas. We've highlighted different charities at golf tournaments and different areas. We'll find one. There is a raffle tonight. I hope you bought tickets. If you didn't, I promise we'll give you a little time before we pull it at the end. And I'm also proud to tell you that in the last 2 years, the charitable partnership has given over $66,000, separate of the $100,000, to those 10 charities that are nonprofits within the town. Okay, I think I took like 15 minutes, but I'm all done. I am happy. Who am I going to? Government Affairs? The Government Affairs Committee does great work for the town. I'm not going to take any of their thunder. Kelly Pappas, who's one of the co-chairs for that, or the chairman rather for that, is coming up to speak to you. Thank you all again for being here. Please join us at different events, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. You've listened to me for years. I'm out. I don't know, there were many in this room who were at the Government Affairs this morning, where we talk about some very complicated, very topical issues that affect every member's activity in this area. And I'm officially turning it over to Kelly, because I think it's important that we have, ready for this? That's all right. You don't need to listen to me. You need fresh blood coming in. And look, I don't live in town. Kelly does. And I think it's important to have that type of presence. So I couldn't turn it over to someone more competent to handle it. But before I do,
A few words?
A few words. About 5 or 6 years ago, I received a call from Sonia. Sonia said, we're going to have lunch to talk about our successor to the prior chair or the head of the chamber. And I said, okay. 4 years ago?
4, yeah.
Time flies. So I met Sonia, and she said, you got to talk to Rick Parker. And it's like winning the lottery. We were very, very lucky. We were very lucky to get Rick. Rick has been unbelievable in rejuvenating the chamber. And I think it was Sonia who indicated that this is an area chamber. And my parting challenge from the Government Affairs is that this chamber should be an Uber chamber. It should be bigger than Burlington. It should be bigger than all of us, because we all do business all over the area. And let's bring this along the corridor. Let's make it something that, 2 years, 3 years from now, this room isn't big enough to hold us. Because I have every bit of confidence that Rick Parker can do that if we get behind Rick Parker. No question. Right. So again, it was one of our luckiest days. And Sonia, Rick, you didn't think I was going to do this, but Kelly, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bob, for your multiple years of service as the chair to the Government Affairs Committee. I have big shoes to fill, but...
No comments on that.
So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce's annual event. I'm Kelly Pappas with Foster Sullivan Insurance, and I am apparently the current chair of the Government Affairs Committee. The purpose of the Government Affairs Committee is to provide a forum for committee members to discuss political and regulatory issues that are impacting both residential and commercial communities within Burlington and the surrounding areas. Some of the topics of discussion this year have included a discussion with Devon Shaw, the Burlington High School student who is leading the discussion on a proposed plastic bag ban in Burlington. On question 1 regarding the nurse staffing ballot question, the Government Affairs Committee heard presentations from both sides of the discussion before filing a formal position on the issue. The Government Affairs Committee participated in the Massachusetts Small Business Day on Beacon Hill, which featured key legislative updates from an expert panel regarding the new EMAC and health assessment, paid family leave, and minimum wage increases. In April, we held a candidates forum for the Selectmen's race, where we posed questions regarding how the candidates would positively impact economic development and retention, small businesses, housing, and transportation. State Representative Ken Gordon, way in the back. Hi, Ken. Joined us to discuss the Paid FMLA Act and how it would impact employees and businesses. Bob Burbidge, I don't know if Bob's here tonight. Bob here? No. So Bob from Genesis HR, who is also very involved in government affairs at the state level, led an informative discussion on the grand bargain and its impact to the business community. Now, I could go on and on. This was all done in the first 6 months of the year. So my purpose here this evening is just to assure you, the members, that we are your advocates and we are your employees' advocates. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Bob. Kelly just touched upon a few of the things that we work on in the Government Affairs Committee. Things like Burlington, the area around us, doesn't happen by chance. It happens with planning. And as a wise man once told me, everything is interrelated. And when you try to make a change in one area, there are unintended consequences that you need to be prepared for. And one of the things the Government Affairs Committee does is it looks at things from the perspective of the larger businesses that are here, the smaller businesses, the towns that are affected, the residents, and the employees. There is a hunger right now in the business community for employees. That's what's driving everything. The amenities that you see, transportation issues that we try to the challenges that we try to handle. We work with Middlesex 3 Coalition and our state representative, Ken Gordon, on that. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Things don't happen by themselves. They happen with a lot of hard work. It's hard work. These are smart people that know how things work together, and they sit down. And another thing I was taught, if you just turn the volume down. See, Bob, you don't even have to talk anymore. If you turn the volume down and listen to each other, you'll find that the solutions are already there. I want to introduce somebody now that I met a short time ago, and he'll give you the story. Luke Ryan from Boston 25. Luke, could you just step right up? This is how things happen. It starts with a conversation. It starts with someone with a passion. Every one of you in your job, if you haven't found that passion, please find it. It's tough to do business today if you don't have that passion, that drive. In a short 30, 45-second conversation that I had with Luke, I could feel that passion, and I guess I'll just leave you to tell the rest of that story, Luke.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Hi, everyone. And I'm new to meeting a lot of you, but I just want to give you a little overview of my connection and the overview of, thank you very much, sorry, how I met Rick. So I'm a local dad here. I'm also the business development manager at Boston 25. I was kind of thrown for a loop this year. My son was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease called juvenile myositis. It's a life-threatening autoimmune disease, very difficult condition. He's doing well now, but what happened was we did a charity event over at King's over in Burlington. Rick answered my call, basically. Jessica over at the Archer introduced me to Rick. Right that same weekend, Rick reached out. I reached out to Rick. He jumped right on it and helped out promoting the event. We raised about $30,000 for a disease that affects 1 in 500,000 kids. It's awesome. So that's kind of my background story there. The event tonight is actually we're the nonprofit for this. There's only, my understanding, 2 children, maybe 3 in Massachusetts that were affected this year by that. So one of them is in Burlington. We know that family as well. One's in Lexington, that's my family, and then another in another part of Massachusetts as well. So I also have a pretty unique, awesome opportunity here where I love my job, I really do. I get to connect with amazing business leaders around the community. We get to help out. We get to help in any number of ways with integrated marketing strategies. So I have a couple folks here from my team, Nicole and Eric, sitting at this table over here. They're happy to talk with you, and I'm here to help in any way that I can too. So I also have the distinct pleasure of introducing our sports director, Tom Lydon. And Tom is an all-around awesome human being. He'll be our keynote speaker today. I'm happy to answer any questions related to Cure JM, about the disease, kind of what we can do in our end to impact, some kids that really need some help. And I'll leave it to Tom to take over from here. And please, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for that too. And please, Tom Lydon.
Hey everybody, how you doing? It is really more important for me to be here than for you to have me here. And what I mean by that is this is my 4th year back in Boston. And I say that because I have 2 older sisters. They went to Boston College, as did I. I graduated in '94, I'm the baby. They stayed here after they graduated, and I'm the one who bebopped around the country. And I was finally able to reconnect with them back in 2015. And it's been a great run. And one thing I've really noticed, particularly over the last 6 months, is that the longer you're here, the smaller the city becomes. And the city becomes smaller because you get an opportunity to do events like this, where you look people in the eye. If you think about what I do by its very nature on television every night when I deliver the sportscast at 11:25 or at 6:50, I'm looking at a camera, I'm not looking at anybody. So I don't get any feedback. You know, I tell a funny joke and nobody laughs. It works. But you see what I'm saying? That's why I come out to these events, because there's some feedback. But it is so important for somebody like me who's trying to, get a firm ground underneath me to meet people and just look you in the eye and share a smile and share a boom sauce. How great is that? Boom sauce, there you go. But one thing I thought was important is if you heard how Luke was introduced. Luke was introduced as business development, not salesperson, business development. And I think that that's so important, and you're going to understand in a minute why I find that to be so important in our business specifically, because it's not about just going out knocking on doors and trying to get people to spend money on you because you have a big audience. Those days are done, particularly in a market like this, which is so competitive. You have to be creative, and you have to go to your potential clients with solutions to their problems. What can we do for you that's going to be meaningful, that's going to work for both of us? Yes, we're going to get some revenue in our coffers, which is great. That's the bottom line. We all have to survive. Everyone's got to get paid. The checks have to clear. But what are we doing for you? And people like Luke and everybody else in his staff, they're going to make sure that it works. And if it doesn't work, they're going to come back around and they're going to redot those I's and recross those T's and make sure that it does work. And that's why I enjoy working with people like Luke, particularly in my role as a sports guy, because when you think of how you can be creative in content in what we do, so much of it comes back to us. It's difficult to sponsor some of the things that you see on the news. Just think about what a newscast consists of on a nightly basis. Sometimes not a lot of positivity. It's hard to associate yourself with that per se. People love what we do. We really dedicate ourselves not only to the big stories, not only to the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Celtics, the Bruins, but we try to get out there and cover the communities. And we really dedicate ourselves to the high schools. And we like telling those stories. And we like taking our time telling those stories, because we found that in a market like this, if you can create a niche for yourself by doing something unique that's really going to touch the communities, you're going to make a mark. So we've dedicated ourselves to a high school football game of the week program for the last 4 years that I've been here. And it existed before I even got here. But we have really embraced that, and now this week it comes to a close for 2018, and there's a certain sadness that comes with that, because you've grown close to the teams, you've grown close to the communities, you get to know the players, and that's what it's all about. And I'm getting to the point where now I remember these kids from when they were sophomores, and now they're seniors, and I've seen them play for 3 years. And that's what's great about getting into, for me, what's still a relatively new market. So where did I come from? How did I get here? I graduated from BC in '94 and I wanted to be on TV. I interned at WSBK with Gene Levanchi when he was there. We did the Celtics and the Bruins, and I was an up-and-coming wannabe sportscaster, and I couldn't find a job in the country. It was frustrating. If you know me, and hopefully you get a chance to get to know me a little bit, I'm a hustler. I want to work, and 2 months after I graduated, not having work drove me crazy. Got a couple freelance jobs. I worked at the World Cup when he was here in 1994 in Foxborough. Many of you remember that. But after that, it was dry, some slim pickings, and I was spending a lot of time at home, and it was brutal. So I didn't give up my pursuit of being on television, but, man, was I blessed with a great mom. My mom worked at the Westport Public Library in Connecticut, and she checked people out. That's what she did. She worked in circulation. So imagine this, changing your life, as it did for me. A guy walks up to the desk. He says, I don't have my library card. And my mom said, well, do you have your license? He says, no, I can't believe it. I don't have my license either. Do you have anything that identifies who you are? He says, the only thing I have is my National Football League identification card. My mom could talk to that fireplace and know when it was born. Really? You work at the NFL, huh? Long story short, Tom Richardson was his name, was looking for a secretary. My mom came home probably sick of me in the house for 2 months doing nothing and going crazy, pulling my hair out, and said, I think you should call this guy. And so I ended up calling Tom, got an interview, and I hold the distinction as being, in history, the first male secretary of the National Football League. That is true. That is true. That is a true story. And what's great about it, big education at Boston College, get a great job, right? $23,000 a year, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue, but I loved it because I learned something I didn't know how to do, and I learned organization, and I learned business, and I learned how to create conference calls and travel and answer the phone and take messages and send out faxes. Everybody remember what a fax is? But all that stuff that so many people take for granted, and I was a novelty. You can imagine the old boys club of the NFL walking through the hallways and saying, what the hell is going on here? What is Richardson doing hiring this guy? And I actually had a really good fraternity with so many of the women who were my peers, my colleagues, and they helped me out, and I knew from the get-go that I had to endear myself to these women, and not in any way, shape, or form. And I didn't think I was better than them, because I wasn't. Many of them were better than I was. So it's not like I ever had a big ego, and I loved it. Luckily, I was able to get promoted. I worked with the National Football League for 4 years. And after that, my boss, Tom, moved to the National Hockey League, and he brought me with him as his manager of sales and marketing. So you're like, how did this guy become a sportscaster? Because I spent 6 years in sports marketing, great jobs in New York City, and I looked Tom in the eye, and I said, okay, so you remember that interview back in '94 when I said I wanted to be a sportscaster? He said, yeah. I said, so I want to be a sportscaster. He said, really? Well, what are you going to do about it? I said, I'm going to quit. You're going to quit? What do you mean? You've been doing this for 6 years. I'm like, yeah, if I don't make it by 35, I'll come back. That was my goal. So I was 27 at the time, and I quit cold turkey. And to fast forward a bit, I had 3 job opportunities when all was said and done over the course of the next 6 months. The first one was in Wheeling, West Virginia. I don't know if anyone knows Wheeling, West Virginia. I certainly don't. I've never been there. But the news director called me and said, hey, we'd love to hire you. How's your driving record? You drive a lot, covering a lot of sports, covering a lot of news. Do you want to sit down? No. How's your driving record? Well, it's fine. Would you like me to come down and meet? No. When can you start? I'm like, this isn't for me. So I didn't take that job. The next job that was available was in Grand Junction, Colorado. Anyone ever been to Grand Junction, Colorado? No. It is gorgeous. Have you been there? It's absolutely beautiful. It's on the western part of the state. It's really closer to Utah than it is to Denver. It's beautiful. $18,000 a year, no moving expenses. The job is yours. I was like, wow. I was looking for apartments. I wanted to pursue the dream. And as I was looking for apartments, ready to take this job as the weekend sports anchor in Grand Junction, Colorado, the phone rang. That was one of those life-changing phone calls. Got a call from the news director in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And Allentown was a lot closer to the East Coast than Grand Junction, Colorado was. And so I ended up taking that job. And I stayed in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I was taught within the first 2 weeks of me being there, if you prove to these people that you have a passion for what they have a passion for, they'll love you. And they'll love you forever. So I never big-timed. We were in the Philadelphia market, but it wasn't about covering the Eagles and the Phillies and the Flyers and the Sixers. It was about covering the high school sports, high school wrestling, high school field hockey, volleyball. We were there consistently. And the parents and the students and the coaches and the athletic directors and the community loved us as a station. Fast forward, and I'll move to my next job, but fast forward to 2018. Our big show in Allentown was a 60-minute high school football show we did on the fly every Friday night at 11 o'clock. It was called The Big Ticket. I'd put it up against any show that's produced in this country that covers high school football. It's phenomenal. 2018, that show celebrated its 25th anniversary. It started, what would that be, 1993? Is that right? So it probably started in 1993, 94 perhaps. I called up the news director, I said, you gotta bring us all back. You gotta do an anniversary show. And that started the idea. And the show just aired last weekend. We did a 25th anniversary show looking back at the impact that this local station had had on its local community over the course of 25 years. I'm really proud of that. More so than all the World Series and Stanley Cups and Super Bowls I've had the great fortune of being able to cover. To be able to go back into a community and 15 years after you left, have people know who you are, have people send you emails, call you, send you text messages, and say, I shed a tear. It was unbelievable. What you guys did for our community was great. And for me, that's what it's about. Even here, that's what it's about. That is what it's about. That's why I like doing the stuff that we do with the local high school football, with the local high school sports, with the stories about people. We do a show called Boston 25 Sports In Depth. And the concept there, if you're familiar with Real Sports with Brian Gumbel or E60 on ESPN, it's taking your time, not worrying about a 2.5-minute sportscast. You're going to get a half hour for us to really be able to flesh out a story. And I don't care if the sport is tiddlywinks or table tennis or badminton. If it's a good story, we're going to take the time to tell it. And we're going to tell it well. So we like doing that because I think that those stories make a difference. And I think those stories carve us out a little niche. And that's what we want to accomplish. So back to Allentown, moved to Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. I was there for 11 years. And I never would have thought I would stay there for 11 years. But I started as low man on the totem pole in our station, which was a legacy, very successful station in Michigan, Detroit. And I ultimately left as the sports director 11 years later. 2 kids were born there. We made a boatload of friends there. A quarter of my life was spent there. I left when I was 44 years old. It was remarkable. We made fantastic friends. And frankly, if I could have moved that job and everyone who was friends with us to the East Coast to be closer to my family, I would have done that. It was great. But we had to make the tough decision because I had a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And it was like, oh, we're either going to stay here forever or we got to make the move now. Because our kids, you don't want to move when they're 12, 13 years old, moving to high school and whatnot. So luckily, I got the job here at Boston 25 News. And what a dream. What a great opportunity to be close to my sisters again and be at a market that the teams win so frequently. I will be honest. I was so relieved when the Patriots won Super Bowl 51 because I did not want to be the guy who came late to the party. Yeah, I didn't want to show up and be like, oh, remember when we used to win these? Because you're covering the reunions and these guys are all coming back and you weren't there and you got to say, oh, yeah, Troy Brown, I know you're a great player. I didn't really know you when you played. So now to be a part of it is great. It really is fun. And in the short time that I've been here, 2 Super Bowls, World Series championship. Obviously, the Celtics have made some great runs, and I know it's not going to end anytime soon. We're incredibly lucky, and it's a lot of fun to do those big things. I was asked to touch on the concept of teamwork and what I've learned about team and what I've seen about successful teams. And I wanted to share a couple of different stories from a couple of different teams that I've had the good fortune of covering over the years. Some of them closely and some of them really on the surface, which I think is interesting. I'll start with the one that's on the surface because it was that jarring and that moving to me. This past year, the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament were played at TD Garden. At least one regional came through Boston. One of the teams that played here was the team that ultimately won the national championship, Villanova. And I've seen, as you would imagine, 20 years worth of practices. And I've had the great fortune of being inside the walls and hearing the coaches and watching the players and seeing how teams interact with each other. I've never in my life seen a team interact with each other the way Villanova interacted with each other. The second I saw them, it took 2 minutes for me to look at the guy next to me and say, they're going to win the national championship. Why are you so sure? Look at how they interact with each other. They had star players and they had bench warmers. And if you didn't know the roster, you wouldn't have known who's who. Because that's how they approached the workout with such quality. The best players on the team lifted up the guys who were considered to be the worst players on the team. The positivity that they had, there was no jealousy, there was no selfishness, there was just nothing but cheering each other on, lifting each other up when you got on the floor, and just a basic awareness of taking advantage of each other's strengths. They knew what each other did well, and you can tell in the short time that I even watched them that they put themselves in the position to do what they did well. And sure enough, no surprise to me, that was the team that won the championship last year. And it's a good lesson, I thought, to anybody at any level. And I share the story with high school teams and also the teams that I coach, my daughter's teams. about how important it is to not be selfish, to not think about yourself all the time, or be negative at all, because you need that encouragement from your teammates to make it work. The next story is about a specific player who you're familiar with, Kyle Van Noy, who's the linebacker for the New England Patriots. When I was in Detroit, Kyle was drafted out of Brigham Young, and there were a lot of expectations on Kyle when he was drafted by the Lions. And he didn't really live up to those expectations. Now, I left to come to Boston, and I don't think it was during my first year, it was during my second year here. Trade deadline day, guess who's coming to town? The Lions trade Kyle Van Noy to New England. You probably weren't paying attention, but I sure was at that moment because I know the guy personally. So you think about how it affects his family, you think about how it might affect his career, and obviously if you're here, you're like, wow, how lucky is he? He goes from the Lions to the Patriots, that's great. And so he shows up, and he doesn't play. Doesn't play for 2 weeks, doesn't really get in there for 3 weeks. So finally I sort of eased my way over because I wanted to give him some space. And it's a natural question. I'm one of the few guys who can ask it, an understanding, like, what's the difference? What's the difference? Why are you having some success here? What do you anticipate here? What he said to me was this. He said, I know I have talent, but I feel when I was in Detroit, the coaching staff made me do what they wanted me to do. They said, you do this. And I didn't always feel comfortable doing that. And I didn't feel that I was playing to the best of my potential because I wasn't in a position where I felt I could succeed. He said, these guys brought me in, they looked me in the eye and said, so what do you do well? And they gave me the opportunity to tell them what I thought I did well. And they said, we're not going to rush you. We're going to figure it out. We're going to watch you in practice. We're going to see what we think you do well, and we're going to reconvene. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to come up with a plan. And we're going to figure out how to put you in a position where you can take advantage of what you do. I left that interview with my eyes wide. And I said, whoa, that's a team that wins championships. That's a team that recognizes its talent and puts that talent in a position where it can succeed. Not just, you're fast, go do this. It was a clear difference in the way the two teams were using their players. And that was a good lesson to me for an awareness to know how to put somebody in the proper position where they can succeed. Notice, figure out what they do, put them in the right spot. The last one kind of loops them both together. 5 years ago, Michigan State had a fantastic football team. So good, in fact, they won the Big Ten championship, and they went to the Rose Bowl to play Stanford. This was a big deal. Michigan State had not been to the Rose Bowl since 1988. So you can imagine the green wave that went from East Lansing to Pasadena. And among those who were the most notable players on the team was the captain, Max Bullough. Max's dad had played at Michigan State. Max's grandfather had played at Michigan State. He was a third-generation Spartan. He was the captain of the team. He was the middle linebacker. He had led his team to the Big Ten championship in the Rose Bowl. When you play in the Rose Bowl, you leave the day after Christmas. Maybe Christmas Day, one or the other. So the Spartan team plane is getting set to leave East Lansing to head out to California. And there's an empty seat. Where's Max? Anybody know where Max is? Head coach comes on. It's on the speaker and says, gentlemen, Max Bullough will not be making the trip with us. Captain of the team, gone. Heart of the team, for the most part, gone. Not making the trip, not going to be there. Why? To this day, I still don't know why. And that's a big story if you're in Michigan. Whatever happened with Max Bullough? Why didn't he play? Well, what does it mean? What's the trickle-down effect? It means that someone's got to step up, which means that if your best guy goes down, you got to have somebody ready. Somebody who's not only ready physically, but ready mentally to step up and make a difference. Well, you would guess what happened. There was a walk-on fifth-year senior by the name of Kyler Ellsworth who had been playing behind Max all year. Kyler Ellsworth was named the defensive MVP of the 2014 Rose Bowl. He made the signature stop on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter with about 2 minutes left when Stanford had a chance to win the game. It's an iconic shot that if you Google Kyler Ellsworth, it will be the first thing that pops up. He jumped over the line of scrimmage, head-to-head contact with the running back, game over. Michigan State wins, a legend is born. And it's born because he was ready. And it goes back to those guys at Villanova. It goes back to those kids who probably weren't the best on the team, but understood the role that they played and were ready in the case that one of them got hurt. And that's what happened in the case of Kyler Ellsworth, in the case of Max Bullock. So you can sense from hearing me talk that I really like to dig a bit deeper into the soul and the emotion of sports and how I like to appreciate it and cover it. And those are some of the stories that I've enjoyed. Sonia, you said something I found very interesting that I want to point out. You talked about women in business.
Yes. You can come if you want to.
Well, I appreciate
Nobody is excluded.
I grew up with a mom and 2 sisters. My wife has 3 sisters and a mom. A lot of women in my life. My best basketball coach was a woman. True story. I have 2 daughters. And no sons. So, you mentioned that men should be a part of women in business. I smiled when you said that.
She doesn't mean it.
Well, I think it's important for men to be a part of women's lives too. And I think it's important for men to be a part of women's initiatives too. In fact, I think it's so important that over the last couple of months, I teamed up with a friend of mine who had started a Women's Empowerment Scholarship. And we decided that we were going to have a fundraiser, big event. I've never hosted a big event. As a television personality, you go to a lot of them. You've seen your colleagues host these events that raise money for various things. And I wanted to do one. And what I really like doing is organizing parties with the band where you can dance and eat, drink, have fun. So one of my biggest concerns about wanting to have a party is what's the cause and will anybody come? You know, because you don't want to throw a party and no one's going to come. So I wanted to find a good partner. And when my friend started her scholarship, I approached her and I said, do you think it would be weird if I partnered with you in the Women's Empowerment Scholarship? And she kind of stopped. No. What do you think? What are you thinking? I said, well, I think at this time in our country, it is important for men to step up. And I don't think it should be women riding in their own lane, fighting their own fight, and always waving their own flag without the support of those who can help them in a number of different ways. And I felt that I could help her. And I could help spread the word about her scholarship, her foundation. We built it from the ground up. We made it a 501c3. We've learned through many speed bumps what it's like to run a nonprofit, which so many of you know. But the fact is, we've got this rocking and rolling event ready to go Friday night. We've got 225 people coming. We've got a 10-piece band. We're doing it at Davio's Boston, and we're raising thousands of dollars for her newfound scholarship. And it's been an amazing achievement, an amazing experience to be a part of it, to help somebody out as they start their thing, and you feel as though you're being a part of something special and different. I know that many of you in this room are doing what you're doing on a volunteer basis. You're doing it because there's an inherent passion to do it, and there's an inherent desire to help other people. We all have it. Everybody who's here has that. So I encourage you to continue to do that, continue to help. One of the things that I've struggled with over the last couple of weeks and months is the concept of fighting through the wave of no. And I think that many of us, particularly in the nonprofit sector, can appreciate is that overwhelming wave of negativity, the no answer that you consistently get. And how can you balance that negativity with those little glimpses of positivity? And how can you not be drowned, oh, well, I wish they would have done this, but these people are great. And I need help with that. So if those of you who've been in those shoes can help people fight through that no, because think about how many people, I mean, I'm strong-willed. I think I can fight through the no. Think about how many people can't. Think about people who try to climb up that ladder and they just get too many no's that they give up. And they may be talented, but they don't have that skill of overcoming that wave of no. The big joke I have with some of my anchors, we sit there during the breaks. Hey, how's your event going? I'm like, you don't understand how much time it takes just to get to somebody who has the power to say no to me.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Is it right? I mean, people can't possibly comprehend that. The amount of time it takes, the forms you have to fill out, the phone calls you have to make, the follow-up emails you have to send, just so that one person can call you on the phone and say like, hey, that sounds great, but I can't come. Oh. So how do you shake that off and move on to something else? So help people out in that regard, including me. How to get through the no. You too. I mean, you're a business development guy, so you fight through the no each and every day. I've spoken for a long time, a lot of it off the cuff, but I do want to just say how honored I am to be here. Honored I am to be invited. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. And if you have ideas, if you have suggestions, I am among the people in this world who love to hear them, whether it be by email, by phone, or in person, or via Twitter or Facebook. I love hearing suggestions because those are real. Those are people who are passionate enough to pick up a pen or sit behind a keyboard and actually interact with you. So if you are going to interact with me, that's a good sign. That means you see some glimmers of hope there. So I do hope that you continue to invest with us at Boston 25. We will continue to invest with you in this community because the community is the lifeblood of what we do. So with that, I'll say thanks for having me, continued success, and if anyone wants to talk, say hello, shake hands, take pictures, ask questions, give me advice, make me feel better, that'd be great. And if you like them on Friday, please do. Love to see you.
We have one question. It was interesting when you were talking about, how you had the passion going the whole way through. And Luke, when I got the call from Luke, and by the way, he didn't mention it was afternoon on a Saturday.
It was, sorry.
And I said, the heck is calling the chamber on a Saturday? And I looked and I saw it was somebody's name. And I said, well, this is going to be interesting. It's not a robocall. And, he introduced himself, told me about the foundation, told me about his son, had a lot of passion for it, and had an event coming up. And I said, well, yeah, it sounds great. When's the event? Oh, tomorrow. Now, here's a guy that had planned this whole thing for the whole time, and up until the moment of the event, he's going at it. I can't think of a better example, and I see it on a daily basis by a lot of the people that are in this room. There's no 9 to 5s in this room. There just isn't. Business can't be done from 9 to 5 anymore. And it can't be done without having passionate partners. It's tough to do it alone. It's impossible to do it alone. You've got to have partners that are all pulling in the same direction. And on that note, I want to just call attention to a couple of special partners that we have with us here tonight. 4 years ago, almost to the day, I stood in this room. I got a bunch of the restaurant GMs and their executive marketing team together so we could talk about the Burlington restaurant industry, because it was really white hot at the time, and we wanted to get them all together and talk about how we're going to attract people to the greater Burlington area. And I wanted to get them together and talk about what the common challenges were. So we're here at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, right in this very room, and I started the meeting just as I am now, and I said, I really want to find out what the common challenges are in the restaurant industry today so that we can address it and we can, get to business and try to help each other. And it was crickets. And I was like, oh my God, what did we get into here? Until somebody raised their hand and said, I'm having trouble with staffing. And I said, well, what do you mean? I just can't find good help. Well, then the hands went up. Yeah, I'm having a staffing problem too. And you saw the emergence of a team in that room that put aside their competition with each other and understood that there's something greater in the power of togetherness. And I can't say that it happened easily because it's 4 years later, but in addressing problems with staffing, in this particular case, it was the restaurant and hospitality workers didn't have access to public transportation. They had the same public transportation that we have access to, but that's really in the 9 to 5 world. It didn't run late enough to get people home if they were going to take a job in the greater Burlington area, and it didn't run on weekends. So we started 4 years ago, and what I learned along the way is that when you find people who are passionate about helping each other, you will come across partners like you've never seen before. We've got a couple of them here tonight, and we're giving out an award. We've called it the Public-Private Partnership Award. If you've never had to try to get industry and in the public sector together, there's many challenges. But when you find those special people that look beyond what's being done, that look beyond the challenges and what happened yesterday and say, why not? Let's make this happen, and roll up your sleeves and really meant it. We're fortunate to have two of them here today, and I'd like to acknowledge them in the Chamber's Public-Private Partnership Award. First, our Massachusetts State Representative, Ken Gordon. Please come up. For those of you who don't know, if you think your public servants aren't working as hard as you are or as late as you are, I got news for you. This guy's doing it. And Ken, I spared no expense with this certificate. But I know it's the heartfelt appreciation for what Ken has done for us. And we're very close to the solution. And it's come with a partnership with Middlesex 3, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Ken, you were here that day with me. We're very close to making that happen, and we look forward to continuing to work on challenges together. Thank you. Stephanie, the other. Let's get a picture. Don't ruin that.
Can I have a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you, Rick, and to the chamber, thank you very much. It's really an honor, and I'm really humbled to be recognized by this group that, as Rick said, you work so hard for the benefit of this community, this Burlington and this greater Burlington community. And what you do really, and what we do together, is solve problems. In this case, it was a transportation problem that wasn't giving businesses access to the labor market. In other cases, we have licensing issues. We have issues dealing with workforce training. And what this group is, a group that has decided that together we can get things done. And we can take the time to work together to get things done. So for 6 years now, it's been really my honor, and it's been such a rewarding experience to work together with the Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce, because every day you're working to get things done. And sometimes with this restaurant shuttle, with the Middlesex 3 Coalition, Stephanie Cronin, we're able to show tangible success. And on other days, it's another day of working toward that success. But we continue to do that job. And it's because of this group that the businesses out there and the residents out there know that there are folks working for their interest. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. So Ken stole my thunder a little bit there. The other award for Public-Private Partnership Award goes to the Executive Director of the Middlesex 3 Coalition, Stephanie Cronin, who happens to be on our board, but every once in a while you just got to give the right award to the people who have been behind the scenes making it happen. Stephanie? Got to shake my hand here. Turn the light for a minute.
I always like to. Oh, sorry.
She always blinks. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Am I supposed to speak?
You got to say something nice.
Thank you. Just a few things that I do want to say. First, Rick likes to say it's a team effort, and it truly is. And this is not something. Does this work?
Yeah, hold it close.
And this is not something that this is a team effort. And I look out, and there's so many people in this room that have worked on a number of these events, which is why this public-private partnership has done well. And we've heard the word passion so many times tonight, and that's truly what it is, that people are passionate about coming to, whether it's the Middlesex 3 meetings, whether it's the Burlington Chamber, they're passionate about coming and getting together. And I was thinking that I'm not from Burlington, but I would never know it. This is such a welcoming group, and it doesn't really matter where you're from. You're here, and they open their arms and they welcome you, and it's a great group to be involved with. So thank you very much.
Most of the people in this room, you see me probably more often than you want to. But the stories that go on every day, the small business, the struggles of dealing with the competitive nature in today, online retailing, the struggle for finding people, struggle for finding help. As we go through the day and we meet with people, we'll stumble across a business owner who might just happen to have a truck back up into an electrical outlet at her facility, shutting her down immediately where I walked in the door, just happened to be there to talk with them and say, okay, what are we going to do? Well, they're not going to do this. So we get on the phone, we make a couple of calls to get people to pay attention. The gratitude that comes from helping a small business owner is something that you can't experience unless you're involved in doing it. The thing about this chamber that is different, and again, Stephanie and Ken both couldn't say it because they represent other districts and other towns. They didn't want to say the most effective chamber in the area, but let's all be serious here. The reason for that is if you come to the table wanting something, you have to give first. If you take a marble out of the bowl, you have to put one in. Or you can put in two. We don't advocate on our own behalf. You don't hear us saying we need more members. But what I'm here to say tonight is if you've had an experience with this chamber that you feel makes us special, tell somebody about it. You owe it to your fellow business people to let them know what's going on here. Chambers of Commerce have struggled for years with that old grandfather attitude. It's cutting ribbons and kissing babies. Business is way too hard these days to be able to just do that. And you know, you've seen me around, you've seen the staff around, you've seen each one of these people that get involved with committees that really step up there. This is a business organization that success is built on its membership, on its members understanding that getting involved with an organization in a cause, whether that be the charitable foundation where you're making a difference in people's lives and you can see it on a daily basis. There is a need for collaboration that goes beyond your own business. It has to go out into the community, and we've done a great job in connecting with the community. So as I leave you tonight, think about the people that could benefit from being part of this organization. The train is definitely leaving the tracks, and no north-south connection intended. Seth. But I think you'll hear tonight on Channel 25 as he signs off from the sports report tonight, I think you'll hear Tom say, you know, that Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce.
No pressure, though.
You thought the Red Sox were good. You wait till you see what this place is going to do. Seriously, folks, thank you for being involved. The Chamber is nothing without its membership and the people that stand up and get involved.